Chocolate is a universally beloved food. It's there when we celebrate, on Halloween, on Valentine's Day, and when we seek comfort, like eating a tub of ice cream after a breakup. Chocolate is both joy and solace, present in our everyday rituals. But beyond this treat lies a complex supply chain. Today, let's make a chocolate tart and explore how chocolate transforms from a fruit in the Ghanaian rainforest to a smooth lint truffle on your tongue. Chocolate needs very little introduction. Its popularity spans time, geography, and demographics, loved by children and adults alike across cultures and continents. It has been consumed for centuries, from ancient Mesoamerican cacao rituals to the modern-day brownie. Today, I'm making a chocolate tart. But chocolate's versatility is part of what makes it so universally cherished. It can be melted into drinks, folded into cookies, layered into cakes, or molded into bars. Whether it's the star of the show or a subtle accent, chocolate always has a way of transforming even the simplest dishes into something indulgent and memorable. The history of chocolate dates back over 3,000 years to ancient people in the Americas. Empires like the Mayans and Aztecs treated cacao with great reverence, using it as medicine, tradable currency, and in ceremonies. During this time, chocolate was primarily consumed as a bitter drink, sometimes flavored with spices and other additives like vanilla and ear flour. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, chocolate was brought back to Europe from the New World. Over the centuries, key innovations transformed chocolate into its modern forms. The introduction of sugar and milk reduced cacao's bitterness and increased its appeal to European palates. The invention of a process called conching, which used heat to smooth and remove grittiness, along with the development of cocoa powder and chocolate bars, made chocolate more accessible and versatile. Today, chocolate is one of the most popular foods globally, with an estimated 7.5 million tons consumed on an annual basis. In Switzerland, a country known for its chocolate-making heritage, the average person eats around 11 kilograms per year. One key aspect of chocolate's democratization lay in cost reduction. It was originally a luxury that could be only afforded by the wealthy, but European inventions allowed for chocolate to be produced at scale, with mechanized mixing and molding. The addition of cheaper add-ins like sugar and alternative fats also reduced the reliance on pure cocoa. However, one of the greatest contributors to the declining cost of chocolate production is where cocoa is produced. Through colonization, cacao farming was brought from the Americas to West Africa and Southeast Asia and expanded within Central America. Let's dive deeper into how chocolate is made. There are 6 key players in the chocolate supply chain, all which play different roles in creating the final chocolate products that we consume. The first group are cacao farmers. Chocolate is derived from cacao beans, which are seeds of the cacao tree. Cacao beans are located in pods, which also consist of a sweet white fruit. Farmers grow cacao trees and collect the cacao beans, which are then fermented in wooden boxes. The beans are sun-dried and preserved for transport, sold to local buyers or cooperatives, the second group within the supply chain. These buyers link small-scale farmers to global markets by purchasing beans in bulk to reach the volumes for transport. They also typically enact some level of quality control, while oftentimes standardizing prices so that all farmers within their purview receive the same rate for their beans. These cooperatives can act as points of certification, whether that is to verify the beans are fair trade or free from child labor. The third group in the supply chain are exporters or traders, who buy beans from local suppliers to sell to international purchasers. They oftentimes arrange transport, clear customs, and can also provide financing to cooperatives and farmers for inputs like fertilizer and seeds. The fourth group, chocolate processing companies, will roast the beans and remove the outer shells to extract the inner nibs. Those nibs are ground to a paste called cocoa liquor, which is pressed into separate cocoa butter and cocoa cake, used to produce cocoa powder. The fifth group, chocolate manufacturers, then purchase these semi-finished products and use them to formulate, mix, and package chocolate products into bars and candies. These are also some of the companies that most of us are familiar with, such as Mars and Hershey's. Lastly, the sixth group are retailers that sell chocolate to consumers, including at grocery stores, bulk stores, and specialty chocolate shops. To fully understand the chocolate supply chain, we have to discuss the concept of value add. When we as consumers purchase any good, that money is distributed across the value chain to those responsible for creating that good. Every participant in the supply chain receives some level of monetary compensation for their work, deemed their value add to the production of that good. While each segment of the supply chain comprises thousands to millions of individual producers with their own characteristics, economics can average value add to understand the average dynamics at each segment. That value is calculated in the dollar amount that the work is worth, or output value minus input value. There are many ways to command greater value, whether that is through scarcity, innovation, branding, or quality. For example, Ghirardelli is able to price their chocolate higher than Nestle due to its reputation as a more premium quality product. The money paid for chocolate is similarly distributed to the six groups in the chocolate supply chain. However, the share that is accrued to each is drastically different. Retailers and manufacturers, or the last two nodes of the supply chain, receive on average 80% of the value. To illustrate this, if I go to Walmart to purchase a Hershey's chocolate bar, for every dollar I spend, 80 cents goes to Walmart and Hershey's. In contrast, the remaining 20% is left to be split between the processors, exporters, local cooperatives, and farmers. Farmers, more specifically, receive just about 7% of the value add. What explains this extreme divergence in value add and pricing power? It's not due to the degree of difficulty. Cacao farming is incredibly challenging in its labor intensity. Cacao trees are vulnerable to disease and pests, while the pods grow all year and need consistent monitoring. Trees also take 3 to 5 years after planting to start producing pods, with peak production not occurring until typically 7 years. In contrast, simple packaging adjustments can increase brand value with very little change to input costs. One key factor is the high concentration amongst retailers and large manufacturers. In 2024, the top 5 chocolate companies, Mars, Mondelez, Ferrero, Hershey's, and Nestle, accounted for 50% of the global chocolate market. This gives them strong pricing power to reduce the cost of inputs. In contrast, cacao farming is done by millions of small farms, which have little leverage to raise prices individually. Another factor is the strong branding of the manufacturers. People have strong recognition and attachments to specific products like Kit Kats and Twix bars. Cacao beans, on the other hand, are a commodity, which means there is little differentiation between products, allowing purchasers to shift freely between different producers. Lastly, it's about distance to the consumer. Retailers have ultimate proximity and the ability to control what goods are shown to consumers. In contrast, people rarely know which country their chocolate is from, let alone the farmer that grew the beans. The issue of fair pay for cacao farmers is not a new one. In 2001, the US passed the Harkin-Engel Protocol, meant to end the worst forms of child labor within the industry. Chocolate manufacturers have also developed internal programs and commitments around best practices. In 2019, Ghana and the Ivory Coast, which produce 60% of the world's chocolate, introduced a living income differential of $400 per ton to raise farmer incomes. However, in practice, progress has been highly variable, and many farmers remain in poverty. While it is estimated that 1.5 million children still work on cacao farms in West Africa. Companies are worried that paying more will cut into their margins, while the average consumer remains more sensitive to price than fair trade. However, signs of change are emerging. Cacao production in Ghana and the Ivory Coast have faced challenges in recent years. While adverse weather patterns and the impacts of climate change have played a role, underlying issues such as aging trees and insufficient investment in replanting are also significant factors. Additionally, agricultural land is increasingly being diverted to more profitable crops like cashews and palm oil. Illegal gold mining activities are polluting and degrading farmland, further reducing available cacao growing areas. Meanwhile, younger generations are migrating to urban centers in search of better paying employment opportunities, contributing to labor shortages in rural cacao regions. Lower supply drove cacao prices up by over 200% between 2024 and 2023. These pressures have sparked new conversations about how value is distributed across the chocolate supply chain and how to incentivize more cacao farming. Food for thought. Ultimately, value add is closely tied to pricing power. For many participants producing the lower value segments of any product, the goal is to move up the supply chain where pricing power is stronger and value creation is greater. In the case of Ghana and the Ivory Coast, this means expanding into chocolate processing and manufacturing. However, significant barriers remain, including limited access to technological know-how, high capital investment requirements, and difficulties in building brand recognition. As we've seen, pricing power often depends less on the actual effort or input costs and more on controlling the story behind the product. Chocolate manufacturers enjoy strong brand recognition and deep consumer loyalty, which give them considerable advantages. In contrast, most cacao is treated as a generic commodity, interchangeable and anonymous, rather than a product of craftsmanship or unique origin. Developing a market for single-origin chocolate and educating consumers to appreciate the distinct flavors of different cacao varietals could help shift this narrative. While the road ahead is challenging, transforming how cacao is perceived and valued is essential to ensuring that the farmers and communities who grow it receive their fair share of the rewards. What is your favorite way to eat chocolate? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy global trade with a side of cocoa butter, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for nomming with me today. See you next time.